Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, brought to you by our good friends over at Threat Locker. Zero Trust, Total Control. This is the Wednesday live show. We are coming up to the end of January. And let me first give a very warm thank you to those of you that have been reaching out, wondering if I'm going to be okay with the upcoming freeze again that is going to be happening here. For those of you that don't know, yes, most of the country has been dealing with bad weather and storms and snow and stuff like that. Well, even Fort Lauderdale is experiencing some of that. Now, we're already chilly. As you can see, I'm wearing my gear here, but this weekend, we are going to be approaching record lows. And just going to show you here, I know that you're probably not going to be able to see that, but this Sunday and Monday upcoming, we are projected to be in the low 30s, 32 degrees on Sunday, 33 degrees on Monday. That is approaching record freezing temperatures going back to the year 1977. So I moved to Florida in 1976 from Berlin, Germany, when my dad was in the Air Force. 1977, we were in Central Florida, actually Satellite Beach on the coast, just south of Cape Canaveral, and it snowed. That's how cold it was. Temperatures in Fort Lauderdale that year reached 29 degrees. So that is how close we are going to be coming for freezing temperatures. Hello? Those of you in the chat, just let me know if you can hear me, because I just had a little blip here. The freeze is coming. So yeah, the question is, what are you, or are you responding to customers that want to use ChatGPT instead of you to solve their problems? The freeze is coming. So I had AJ, one of the juniors at a client, basically try to ask me about bypassing what we're setting up for their secure remote access. We are doing TrueGrid. As many of you know, that is my remote tool of choice, and he doesn't want to do it. So he has been frantically searching around, checking ChatGPT, asking what is a secure way for him to remote into his computer at the office. And his question to me today was, hey, can we whitelist my IP address so that I'm the only one that connects to my computer? And of course, I had to ask, where'd you get that idea from? He said, oh, somebody told me, and I didn't believe him. So we talked about it, and he's working from home on a laptop that moves around a lot. And I'm like, well, there's no way for us to really whitelist your one IP address if you're going to be moving around, because we would have to know every single IP address of where you are when you want to remote in. That's why we do the VPN connection. It doesn't matter because the TrueGrid is creating that VPN. He's like, no, I want to just do it at my house. And I said, okay, what is your connection at the house? And he responded with Comcast. And I knew that there was probably a 99% chance that he was on a plan that would not give him a static IP address. And I asked him about that. And he goes, I don't think so. And I said, well, tell me the price level that you're on. Are you on the highest? Are you on the middle, the lowest? He goes, I'm on the lowest. I said, well, you're not going to have a static IP address. So again, whitelisting an IP only works if it's consistent, but that doesn't absolve you of the issue. Your port is still open to the internet on the firewall, and creating a whitelist still leaves it open. And yes, it does reduce the risk, but it doesn't absolve you of any of those issues, and things can still happen. The whole idea is to close that port and do a VPN with authentication. And then he came back with an idea of, well, what if I do a dynamic DNS, and that way my IP address doesn't matter? And I said, okay, now you're just being silly, because here's the thing. I basically started to give him the not runaround, but basically the response of, okay, let's research this more together and let's figure out a way to do what you want to do without TrueGrid. Let's figure out a solution. And we looked into other VPN options and basically all the same thing. He doesn't want to do the two-step and he doesn't want to do the authentication. I'm like, well, that's going to be a problem. I said, but here's the other thing. So ChatGPT could give you an answer, but who's going to check that answer against your specific network, backup requirements, compliance requirements, vendor contracts? And I know that they just recently purchased cyber insurance. And I said, and is what you're thinking of doing even going to allow you to recover if something should happen? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, I can tell you that you're probably 99.99999% not going to get coverage if you do what it is that you want to do, because one, you're going to have to pay me to support that. So why not just pay for the TrueGrid? And he was like, no. He mumbled and went away. But the real question then comes up to, what are customers going to be doing? And this goes beyond juniors. I mentioned this was AJ, so I'm used to AJ doing it. But I know that many of us are dealing with end users who are looking at ways to do things without us. Now, I think the philosophy is what I've tried to do, is that I've tried to approach it from the perspective of, let's look at this as using AI plus your MSP or AI plus me, and not AI instead of me. Because the bottom line, as I mentioned, it's going to come down to who is going to be responsible when something happens. ChatGPT does not carry liability insurance if something goes wrong. ChatGPT is not going to be the one that you call when things go wrong. ChatGPT is not going to show up at your office if you can't connect. And so if you want to look at doing stuff with ChatGPT, let's do it together. Let's make sure that it is actually something that's going to work for you. So that's my thought. If any of you have, an opinion, a way to frame that with customers, we can, because we all know that we should be trying to sell them AI, but a lot of them are going to do it without us. So how do we approach this going forward if we've got people that are doing it on their own? And if you have a better suggestion, again, my philosophy is try to get them to do AI plus me rather than AI instead of me. And hopefully it goes a long way. The second customer thing that I want to go over is really more of a question now. I thought that I would have this resolved, but I've got a customer that we are going to, in a sense, lift them to the cloud. So they've got a Synology NAS on-prem that I put in when I first got them. This is a customer I got just a few months ago. They've been sharing a bunch of stuff through OneDrive, and the reason they do that is they have about 4 or 5 people in an office here in Fort Lauderdale, and then they have people scattered all over the place. They've got somebody in Georgia, they've got somebody outside of Orlando, they've got a person in Venezuela. So we have some different things that we have to do. The person in Venezuela and one other person actually remote in to a shared desktop. It is a Windows 11 machine that they use this one program to do transcripts from. And they did it that way, one, so that they wouldn't have to have 2 computers that people were remoting into. These people alternate days and times that they work. They share the same local account to get into the computer. So that's one side of it. The other side is we want to move some files out of a particular person's OneDrive, move them into SharePoint, and share them out more securely than this one person's OneDrive. Now, let me give you a little bit of history there. This one person's OneDrive is actually the IT person that I am in the midst of replacing. So this person has been sharing out their OneDrive, giving the permissions there. So we want to take that away and put them in SharePoint, and then, of course, make them more secure. I was tasked with an additional thing in security that we want to make sure that not everybody has access to everything in the SharePoint cloud. So I thought, okay, I believe that permissions are not going to be a problem, but they also wanted to add the security feature that you can only get to those files if you're using a company-owned computer. And I thought, okay, that should not be a problem as well. But they want this junior, and I don't have a nickname for her yet. I'll have to make one up. They want this junior to only be able to access stuff from one company computer. So it's not that they would actually be able to go to computer, but this person is also remote on the other side of the state. They want to send them a laptop, and they want them to only be able to use that laptop to get and access their file. So it becomes a little more dynamic when it comes to trying to set up these permissions. So I was talking with my 365 friend, and we were throwing out ideas. In those 2 scenarios, the shared remote drive and the setting up of the permissions for the one person to be able to only get to files from one machine. So we think we may have found something in the conditional access settings that I want to ask people about if anybody's ever done, but apparently there is a condition that you can set up to a conditional access policy that will allow you to put in a device equals device name or ID or whatever, so that you get the ID of the Azure join machine. You put that in there and set up a policy for only that machine. So that sounds like it would work, but I just want to ask if anybody's actually ever done that before I go in and try to figure out. My office is not set up with Azure and SharePoint. I'd have to create that environment. I assume it's going to be easy, but I figured I'd ask some people first. So that's one thing. The other thing is the problem with the shared computer is, again, 2 different users sharing one local account that they don't want to get rid of because the software that they're trying to use and share is a $400 per month license. And I told them, I said, well, if we set up permissions by user, then each user has to be able to log in to that machine, and they don't want to have to pay for another license for that software to be able to do that on the machines. It's a little tricky. So we've got one, the idea of trying to use the shared logins, which I thought will just sell them a third license, that the two users would have their own license that they could on their home computers be able to log into SharePoint and email and all of that stuff. And then when they log to the shared local account, if they needed to get the SharePoint, they would use that third license only to access SharePoint files. So my friend gave me the idea of, well, they could still authenticate with 365 if they did the Windows Hello. And I wasn't sure how that would work because, again, these people are remoting in through VPN. They are not logging in through TrueGrid. This was a story I told probably 2 months ago where the user in Venezuela, most VPNs do not work. We had to set up a special Microsoft VPN only through the Ubiquity. So their VPN connection goes to the Ubiquity and then they can RDP to the workstation. We did not set up the additional authentication for them because we were going to be doing the Azure stuff, setting up their M365. But if they can't use their individual accounts to use this shared local account on this shared computer, it gets a little tricky. So if you're following me and if you've done something like this, please let me know. My friend and I think we may have come up with a partial solution for setting up the junior with her limited access on a single machine, but the shared workstation through RDP, through Azure with authentication to SharePoint is what I really need to figure out. And my friend was like, you really come with some zingers. And I said, listen, I don't get your regular clients, okay? Mine are pretty complicated. I can't get easy stuff. So I have to figure that out first before I start migrating them to the 365. So if you go back and find this to listen to the scenario, please do that. Or reach out to me, send me an email, or contact me through the social media, and let's set up a chat to go through that because it is kind of, it's kind of funky, I guess is the best way to describe it there. All right, so before we get into the NetAlly update, let us go ahead and say thank you to our sponsor friends here. First, I want to say this episode of the IT Business Podcast is brought to you by ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker's innovative zero trust platform, get my glasses here, locks down endpoints with default deny protection, real-time control, and simplified security that helps MSPs stop threats before they hit your clients' networks, putting control back into your hands and keeping your stack lean, secure, and efficient. And those of you that are familiar with the opening to the show, you may have heard that familiar sound from a while back. We want to welcome back NetAlly. We called them a legacy sponsor before, but they're back. They are delivering industry-leading wired and wireless network testing and monitoring tools trusted by IT pros worldwide to validate, troubleshoot, and optimize modern networks in minutes. And of course, I want to say thank you to our patrons as well as our supporting sponsors, LionGuard, TrueGrid, and BVoIP for helping power the IT Business Podcast and the tools that keep MSPs moving forward. Uncle Marv's IT Business Podcast, powered by the best in the business. So there we have that there. Thank you very much. Just a little caveat here. I had already planned this episode before NetAlly came back on as a full sponsor. So this was a promise that I wanted to keep when I told you all last year that I wanted to give you more tips and tricks and, things of how to use these NetAlly tools, tell you why I use them. the way that I do. So I actually had a conversation with them this morning, and it turned out pretty good. There are some great things that are coming down the road with them. So I'm happy that they've agreed to team up with me, and I'll be bringing you some of those announcements. And we're going to be doing some very special webcasts where we talk about some of the announcements, some of the enhancements and things. So all of that there. So the first thing I want to do is talk to you about NetAlly. Now I'm going to set this up here. You see I've got my EtherScope on and plugged in. And I'm going to do a screen share here. So if you are listening to the audio, I will try to describe it as best as I can so you don't have to watch the video. Otherwise, I will say, yeah, you may want to check the video out to see the screens. What I'm going to do is do a connection here on the remote. But first, let me tell you about what we're talking about tonight. So the main thing I want to talk about is AllyWare 2.9, which is a software upgrade for existing NetAlly handhelds. This works on the EtherScope, the AirCheck, the CyberScope, the Link Runner, and just so you know, the Link Runner has to be a modern version. So I have an older Link Runner G2, and it does not do that. But the tool speeds up field work and improves documentation. So that's what we're going to look at here. So the first thing I want to show is, let me actually go ahead and bring up the screen now. So I've got that shared out. And I don't want to create a new one, but let me bring that there. So this is my home screen for the EtherScope. And what you may notice at the top is there are two new icons that are orange. One is Easy Wired. And as you can see, this one has already run the test that I had plugged in. And if you're familiar with these tools, it's the same as the regular test that would be on there, except it just looks nicer. And it gives you the buttons in green. And this one right here gives you the IP address, gives you the link connection, tells you the switch you're connected to, which port, the VLAN ID, and it even gives you which cables inside are being used for PoE. So then you can go up and click on the PoE, and it tells you what class, how much voltage you're doing. Here is the link connection. Again, this tells me that we're running at 1 gig full duplex. And the tester, as you can see, this one goes up to 10 gigs. So you're going to be able to do a lot of stuff there. I'm going to go back out to the switch. And it gives you the switch. This is, of course, the Ingenious 5912. It's just a small little 8 gig managed switch there. Again, the IP address, MAC, all of that stuff there. I'm going through this pretty quickly because most of this is stuff that you have either seen before or known before. Here's the DHCP history, what was offered, what was accepted, the lease time that I've got set up in this network. And then, of course, we can scroll down and see the user response time for that. The next is DNS. So if you've got special DNS settings, you can see those. You see I've got my DNS through my Synology NAS, and then a secondary to dns.google. And then some gateway testing. And this, I believe, is new, where it will actually go out, test the gateway, give you the ping responses, give you the MAC address, and all of that result codes there. So one thing you may not notice is up at the right-hand corner, there is a little circle with LL in it, and that is the uplink to Link Live. And when you set this up, it is going to turn green once it is sent up to Link Live. And the comment is, one of the things that makes these tools great is that the results will upload to Link Live, and it will be able to allow you to build a per client history. You can obviously keep things like topology. You can do before and afters, and it will just keep a digital record of everything you've done with the test. The test is color coded, and I will show you that the Easy Wi-Fi basically looks the same as the Easy Wire. So real quick, you don't have to go in and really configure anything. And if you're looking here at the Easy Wi-Fi, it even tells you tap here to set the SSID. So when you click that, it comes up to the SSID. All you have to do is click, and it is going to populate with all of the wireless SSIDs that it sees. You can then go and click. I'm going to click on guest. And I already have a password in there. So I'm just going to go back, hit start. And this is going to be how quickly you can run a Wi-Fi test with the EtherScope or the Link Runner. And in this case, I have probably a wrong password because none of the icons are turning green. Oh, nope, there we go. The DHCP and DNS. So, nope, there they are. They're all green. And if you notice real quickly, the upper right-hand corner, there were a couple of green arrows. That meant that this sent the result up to Link Live for me. So it's already there. Now, again, this is doing a test. Now, it's not just a single one-time test. It is still running even after all the buttons have turned green. It is still doing the signal to noise ratio. It is giving me the channel utilization. It is telling me how many retrials are going and the transmission rate of the access point. This is an older access point, so it's not very fast. Now, again, you have the same things, your link information. Here's your SSID. It gives you all the information there. Again, some of those tests. You go back out. Here is information on the channel. So not only can I just say to people, yeah, we're using channel 1, I can look at the utilization there. I can go into channel details from here if I want to, and that'll give me more. Tells me how many SSIDs are on, how many APs are using this SSID. Something down here, RF and traffic statistics. Again, that's all kind of going back and forth to the same thing, but gives you multiple views on how you can see that. The next icon is your access point. Yes, this is an open mesh access point, which is acquired by Dell. And this particular one is the AP440, so not the Big Daddy. And again, all the other information, DHCP, DNS, the gateway test. This is a test out to Google, gives you all of the information from a Wi-Fi perspective with the response time, success. And there's one other icon that you can see right above, in between the Link Live and it's the 3 lines and the check there. That will take you to the existing profiles that you may or may not have set up in the auto test, which is what most of us are used to seeing. But again, I take this all the way back out, and basically once you do your update, those 2 icons are there at the top, Easy Wired and Easy Wi-Fi. Of course, you can still go into auto test and program all of the profiles you want. There's Easy Wired at the bottom. There's the MB Systems guest that I did. You can still do additionals, but this is for something where if you've got a new client that you're walking into, or you're sending a junior out and you just say, hey, look, I need this tested, just plug in the cable, hit the Easy Wired, good to go. Let me go back and talk about why this is so crucial. A lot of times what we deal with is trying to troubleshoot issues with different tools. Each technician may have different specs in the laptop. They're using different tools. This standardizes how things are done. You standardize how we test per client. You can set up the different profiles, which tests are run per client. I've got some clients where I have VLAN tests set up. If we're doing voice over IP on a different VLAN and I need to verify that the vendor, like Windstream is a vendor all the time, that I've got to go through and check the VLAN to make sure their phones are getting the IP address the way they are. This can be set up to test VLANs. This can be set up, as you can see, to test wired and Wi-Fi. This one actually tests fiber as well. It makes it easy to delegate, and it makes it easy to do turn-ups, basic troubleshooting, and the Link Live, which is what I'm showing you here. This is, you see me connecting remotely, but if we go back up into Link Live, this is what I was talking about. The test that we just did is uploaded here, and all those same results are loaded here. I can go in and change the name, assign this to an album. So if I've got clients where I set up these different tests a while back, I can add this to that specific item, that specific folder for that specific client. And it uploads the pictures as attachments, so that if I ever need to go back and review this, and if I've labeled it properly, I'll be able to go back and prove to this customer, yeah, we did that test at 8:28 on Wednesday. And then here's the wired test that, again, gives me all the information in a historical way that I can prove to customers this is what we did. Not huge in terms of the update, but pretty big in the sense that, again, it makes it easy to hand this off to somebody and say, hey, go test this. So I'm going to go back into the interface of the remote and just show you. The one thing you do need to know is that when you get these tools, these are not the type of tools where you get once and that's it. The software is living and breathing just like any other computer device that we get. They do updates all the time. And again, the Easy Wired and the Easy Wi-Fi are two of the updates that they did. The way that Link Live operates within the tools is a little different. You can have it be a remote if you want. If you don't want the system to be accessed remotely, you untoggle that. You can pre-program your comment. You can do the automatic uploads. You can open Link Live directly from here. So if you're on site and you need to take a quick look, hey, did that thing upload properly? You can then go on this unit to the web and check that out. I'm going to stop this because I don't know if it's going to do a loop or not. So one of the things that you'll want to make sure is that your system is up to date. So here is the information. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen, but at the very bottom, the build number 2.9.0.85 is the latest released. So to utilize these updates, you do have to be on AllyCare. Now, one of the things I said at the beginning of this is that AllyWare was the software that gets downloaded for upgrading and stuff. But to get the AllyWare, you have to be enrolled in AllyCare. And AllyCare is, yes, it's an annual subscription basically, but it covers your testers. And when I say cover your testers, you can choose to have this sent in every year to make sure they're calibrated, to fix anything that's broken on them. I have had to fix the network port on one because even though these things are pretty tough and you can kind of drop them from a few feet up, I wouldn't recommend doing it on a regular basis. because I had the cable LAN, it hit in a weird, funky way, and the RJ45 port didn't work. The wireless worked, the fiber worked, but the RJ45 did not. So they will fix that free of charge as long as you're under the AllyCare coverage. You also have to have AllyCare to get the software updates and all of that. There were some other updates that are pretty significant in here. I just won't be going into them tonight, maybe later. There was a lot of stuff that they added for Wi-Fi 7. They added something called MLO, which is a multi-link optimization. They added faster air mapper, quick survey models, which for those of you that may not know, you can take this into a network, and in the air mapper, you can have a floor plan of the location you're at and do a Wi-Fi survey right from this device. Now, this is the EtherScope. You can also do that with the AirCheck, which is the Wi-Fi only device, as well as the link runners. So these are all things that you can do when you want to do that. So I think that's the bulk of the stuff that I want to show. But again, you can see how valuable this is. I mean, I love it for the simple fact that I can walk in to any client and do quick and dirty network testing. And we did all of those things in just a few minutes. Think about if you've got a laptop or you've got your phone that you're running from, or you've got to upload iPerf. You've got to, do all of these things. These things will also do basic cable testing. Now, it's not going to certify. Let's be honest about that. But there is a feature on here called Lambert that to me is just as good as certification, because you can actually, if you take two of these or an EtherScope and a link runner, or an EtherScope and a network testing tool, you can actually push data across 1 gig, 100 meg, 2 gig, and you can see if that data is going to transfer across that cable, which is in a sense better than a certification, because if you can push data through with these devices, then you know that your network is going to work on that. So we'll go over some of those a little bit later. I just wanted to give that quick update, let you know that the 2.9.0.85 is out. You want to get a look at that and download that, and we'll go over some more of the features in upcoming shows. And I see a bunch of you watching but not commenting, so at least thank you for watching. And if you have comments or questions, again, email me down the road, and that'll be great. Let me take a quick sip here. All right. And I meant to do this earlier because I think I'm going to start doing the top 10 earlier, because some of you hang around for that, and that's it. So tonight's top 10. Things IT pros did during the M365 outage. Now, last week we talked about the outage of Verizon, and wouldn't you know it, Microsoft had their own outage for about 9 hours, affecting Outlook and Teams and all of that stuff. So why not just continue the trend and do a top 10 for the next outage? So number 10, told a client it's just you before realizing it definitely wasn't. Number 9, stared at the admin portal like it was a stock ticker, waiting for service health investigation to change. Number 8, opened a ticket with Microsoft just to have it automatically closed with the note, "We're aware of the issue." Number 7, posted. Is Outlook down on Reddit? Then saw about 1,000 identical posts. Number 6, spun up temporary Gmail accounts, enabled emergency comms. Number 5, checked down detector so much, they crashed that too. Number 4, opened Teams to discuss the outage, then immediately realized that was dumb. Number 3, paraded around the office like Roger Goodell at the NFL draft yelling, Amazon, you're on the clock. Number 2, blamed DNS out of habit, then remembered the whole planet was down. And the number 1 thing IT pros did during the 365 outage, ended the day saying on-prem doesn't look so bad after all. All right, thank you guys very much for putting up with that. Very fun. We are entering conference season, and as many of you are getting ready next week, Right of Boom out in Vegas. I say that knowing that I'm not going. So first of all, it's that far out west, and I already have 3 other conferences in 4 weeks that I will be doing. So while I will not be at Right of Boom, I encourage those of you that can go. A great cyber event. You will actually out there. It's a great place to go. If that is not your fancy, you can come down to Fort Lauderdale, February 10th through the 12th, where there will be, this is tough to say because there is an IT Expo, there is an MSP Expo. It's all part of the Tech Super Show. There's actually 6 conferences in one. There's an AI agent event. There's an AI OT World Expo. There is an Enterprise Communication Summit, as well as a generative AI Expo. All of these are happening simultaneously here in Fort Lauderdale at the Convention Center. And right next to the Convention Center is a brand new hotel called the Omni. It is supposed to be fantastic. I will not be staying there because it is so close to my home and because the rooms are expensive because it's such a nice hotel. But that is happening February 10th through the 12th. If you are coming, please let me know. Last year, I actually hosted a luncheon here at my office. There were about 10 of us, 10 people that showed up here, hung out, saw the studio, saw the space there, and thinking about doing it again. So I need to know who's coming into town so that we can do that. After that, there is Channel Pro Defend, which is in Orlando. That is February 17th through the 18th in Altamont Springs. It is going to be at the Hilton Orlando, Altamont Springs. It is a local event. Nice event there. It is free for qualified partners. So if you are close to the area and want to drive in, let me know, and I'll get you in touch with the right people to get you a coupon code to go there for free as an MSP. And then in March 4th through the 6th, I will be in Orlando again at the Rosen Shingle Creek for Zero Trust World. That is the event put on by ThreatLocker, our sponsor here. Again, another wonderful event. And as you can see, 3 events in 4 weeks, all in the state of Florida. So that's where I will be. And as we head out tonight, I want to do one other thing. I'm going to put a QR code up here on the screen. So if you look up in that corner there, that is going to be a link to something that I advised some of you to do last year, and some of you have, because it was a listener that sent me this link. It is a link to a morning briefing by America's favorite sheriff, Grady Judd, out of Polk County, Florida. I will have a link to this in the show notes, but I am not going to do the show here. I'm actually coming up to the time I was hoping to end this off, but I want to have that link up there for you to go and watch the video yourself. It is on the Facebook, so I don't want to be dinged for content stealing and all of that stuff, so I will put the link so that you can go there yourselves and look at that and experience Florida Man, which some of you had expressed you've missed. So we will be bringing back Florida Man in the coming weeks. I also want to, I should have done this earlier as well. Where did I put it? Yes, email. So I will be needing to respond to some emails over the holidays, some emails. And this one is from Landon. And he writes, had what I think might be a good show topic to discuss. Part of my background is in operations, so this question is coming from that perspective. With all the platforms out there, incorporating zero trust into your stack seems to be more of an operations question than a technical or security question. For service like ThreatLocker is almost custom designed for an MSP that wants zero trust, EDR, and everything in one package that's highly centralized and treats the OS environment more like a thin client than a traditional solution. Meanwhile, services like Microsoft Intune Suite are already built into 365, integrate with existing PSAs and management tools for ticket generation and monitoring, and improve overall profitability for the MSP margins when you compare license costs. These decisions have business impact beyond enablement when you weigh labor costs, staff training, and customer satisfaction. So the question is, for MSPs that are weighing these questions, what are the operations pros and cons to look for when integrating a zero trust platform into your stack? We exchanged a reply email and some other stuff, and he came back with basically a personal context, but this question stood out when he said, is zero trust even necessary for my operations? Now, a lot of this is based on what they are doing in their MSP. But I have invited a couple of people on. I know that we have one next week. They are not going to be on a live show. They're going to be on an audio podcast. But I've asked some MSPs to come and join me and talk about how they implement zero trust, why they implemented it, and what are the pros and cons that they see. So later I will be getting to this, and I think we have at least two MSPs that are becoming on the show to talk about their use of zero trust and is it worth it or not. So I will be addressing other emails later, but I wanted to get that one out there to let Landon know. Read the email, got some people to come on and talk about it, and that is your email response. So thank you very much. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of the IT Business Podcast. I want to thank you all for hanging out there. I see some people out there on the YouTube, LinkedIn, and saw a couple on the Facebook as well. We are here most Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. For any other news, check us out over at the itbusinesspodcast.com, where you can follow us with your favorite podcatcher. And I am going to do something where I'm going to try to start categorizing out shows so that if you want to see shows in a particular topic, that you'll be able to go and do that rather than have to search through shows individually. So that's some tweaking that's coming to the website. You can also support the show there, shopping at Amazon, visiting our sponsors and friends. And thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back with more next week live here on the channel. We'll see you soon. Holla.